мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Позиция такая. Держали за плакат. Выходим.
Позор! Позор!
Правонарушение. Требую незамедлительно покинуть место проведения мероприятия. Внешнего участников прекратить нарушение общественного порядка.
Нет войне!
I couldn't believe it. I more or less got myself together, looked at the stock market, and became genuinely convinced that this was really happening. My name is Alexander, I'm 22 years old, I live in Samara and work in a car dealership. Recently, I was fined 40,000 rubles for the discreditation of the Russian army.
It felt like I was dunked into ice water and all my plans suddenly fell apart. My name is Valeria. I live in the city Samara and work as a developer. In March this year, I attended an anti-war demonstration. For this, I was fined 30,000 rubles.
I opened Telegram to look at a message and saw Kiev being bombed. For me, this was a shock. My name is Jan and I'm 37 years old. There were 2 cases brought against me for anti-war statements on the internet.
Просто в ужасе от происходящего.
I'm just horrified by what is happening. This isn't just a crime defined by the criminal code of our country, but also a huge mistake. My name is Vladimir Saltievsky. I'm 35 years old. I'm from the city of Novosibirsk, and for the past couple of years, I've been working in a private law practice. On the 2nd of April, I came out to the city center where I was detained for a poster I was carrying. The court fined me 30,000 rubles.
I thought that everyone would probably have a similar reaction, but it seemed like everyone was going about business as usual. My name is Evgenia, I'm 24 years old, and in March I was fined 20,000 rubles for anti-war flyers.
Now for me, there's only protest. I've put my life on pause. That's it. My name is Vitaly. I'm from Smolensk, and from the 24th of February, I'm starting an individual demonstration running from around 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day.
Уважаемые граждане, внимание! Я старший инспектор отдела охраны общественного порядка, управление Министерства внутренних дел.
I came during the protests at the end of February and start of March. I just wanted to see what was happening, so I came alone, parked my car, and could barely find a place to park because there were so many police vans. The police outnumbered the protesters, and whenever anyone began to gather or take out a poster, a group of riot police would come and detain them.
I decided to film what was happening around me. One policeman told another to look at me, and I was immediately detained.
Я делаю небольшой проект для компании, которая...
I'm working on a small project for a company that converts data from an employee questionnaire in a JSON format, which is easily transferred to 1C accounting.
Многие компании, которые раньше предоставляли продукты...
But the companies that used to provide products for use with open source have left our country. And it's now impossible to buy the licensed version of these programs. This impacts security, and now I understand that now you need to work more to maintain the same quality of life under the sanctions implemented against us.
Суринам тоже одна из африканских стран. Возможно, будут нашими партнерами вместо Германии или Франции. Почему нет?
Отец у меня большую часть жизни занимался...
My father was interested in coin collecting for most of his life and collected coins from different countries. This love of collecting seems to have passed on to me. Now I keep his, let's say, collection going. Banknotes indirectly reflect the situation of the country they are from at the time they are minted. If the banknotes reach into the millions and billions, we can understand that at that time, in the country, there was some kind of giant inflation. Notice, the mayor's office of Novosibirsk did not receive an application for this demonstration. This action violates federal law number 54. Police demand to stop this public gathering.
Все началось в далеком 2011 году, протесты в Москве на Болотной площади.
It all began back in 2011 with the protests in Bolotnaya Square in Moscow. I went out to similar protests, but in my city of Novosibirsk. There was literally 300 of us there. But that experience of on-the-ground action drew me into political life in Russia. At that time, I was still working as a civil servant, but I left literally within 6 months. For the past 3 years, I have been a practicing private lawyer, and here, in communication with colleagues, we all understand how our courts work. Or, more correctly, how justice does not work in Russia. No one is under any illusions about the situation in the country.
Личную жизнь, то, увы и ах, это моя боль.
If we talk about my personal life, unfortunately, and it pains me to say, all my relatives pretty much support what is happening in Ukraine, and today it is very difficult for me to communicate with them. Well, how does my father, who doesn't understand much about politics internally or externally, calls me a fool? My mother says that I'll cross the line and that I'll get locked up. I tell them, how can that be if we live in a lawful state? What would they imprison me for?
In general, more than 100 cars took part in the demonstration. The convoy started at 1 p.m. from the area near the market and began to move along Chekhov Street.
This convoy moved throughout the city, and at the end, they lined up on the square in front of the train station in the shape of the letter Z for a photo. I discussed this event online, in a pretty harmless way, I would say. But as I understand, the administration did not look on it very fondly. My position is, as a citizen, is to be with the people, the participants of the rally. I'm very grateful. I want to meet them and thank each of them. The criminal investigation officers found an offense under Article 20.33. The case has been going on now for 6 months already.
This one is gray. He's been with us for only a little bit, about a year. I accidentally met him at the entrance. The other one is black. He's been with me since I was 8 or 10. He's even starting to get a gray mustache. He doesn't seem to like me carrying him today.
За несколько месяцев до так называемой СВО я только...
Just a few months before the so-called special military operation, I had just found an interesting new job. I was going out with friends, full of hope of an interesting new adult life ahead of me. That was only just beginning. But on the 24th of February, these hopes collapsed.
Я ужаснулась тому, что когда я начала увидеть новости.
I was horrified that when I began to see the news about the rapes that were occurring, as it's terrifying to imagine as a woman, I immediately started to send all the available information to my parents, who started saying that it was all fake and impossible.
Твоей визиткой станет...
Your calling card will be this terrible year. Truly, the undaunted people are ready to bathe in blood, even in shit, but only if there were no posters, no war.
2 апреля я стоял с пикетом на моем плакате.
On April 2nd, I stood picketing with a poem by the Ukrainian mathematician and poet Konstantin Almezov on my poster.
По трагическому стечению обстоятельств на начало войны оказался в России.
By a tragic coincidence, he ended up being in Russia at the beginning of the war, tried to leave for Ukraine, but unfortunately was not able to as a result of our law enforcement system. Now, unable to cope with this injustice, he took his own life. Just before his death, he wrote this poem as a manifesto.
Вместо того, чтобы бесцельно ходить по улицам, это каким-то образом посвящать знакомых, что-то постить в соцсетях.
Instead of wandering around outside, it may be more efficient to tell your friends, post on social media. For example, for my neighbors, who I can't reach on Instagram, can message them directly. I printed out leaflets with pacifist slogans and tried to put them in a visible place where everybody coming out of their homes could see. On the next day, when I was getting ready to pick up my child from kindergarten, I got to the entrance of my apartment building, and then the doors open, 2 or 3 men in civilian clothing come in, followed closely by a local police officer. They surrounded me and took to the precinct. They used the whole range of standard techniques, saying that all my friends had already told them everything about me, that they understand that I am the organizer of all the protests, that they have the evidence, there are photos, they ran the gamut. I called a friend, asked them to collect some things, and immediately left to another city. Around May, a district policeman called me and asked, "Why haven't you been showing up at home? I really wanted to see you," telling me that I had to sign some sort of documents as well. My case was scheduled for March, and they constantly made some sort of requests until May.
Look at the gophers. No way. Look at them munching the cucumber. I've visited all the cities in Siberia, and for me, the city of Krasnoyarsk is the most comfortable, the most advanced, and the most progressive. The only big drawback is the ecological aspect. For me, and I think a lot of others, it's developing very quickly and dynamically. It literally sucks all the money from Krasnoyarsk Krai around it. Just absorbs everything. Everyone who lives outside of Krasnoyarsk seems to strive to move to Krasnoyarsk because the infrastructure is more developed. The organization of cargo transportation is changing, and certain cargoes are not allowed to pass. My company isn't that big. I only have around 4 cars working.
Meanwhile, truckers are protesting the introduction of tolls on highways. Truck drivers consider it unfair and are demanding that it gets cancelled.
They're taking off our last pair of trousers, and tomorrow they're gonna break our legs so the trousers don't fit anyway. For truckers, at the moment, I only see minuses. Production is down, so the flow of cargo transportation is down too. When this whole toll payment business began, I was 30 and a bit, and I'd never been to a meeting, but now we have to somehow try and take action. In the end, we've managed to coordinate with some of my comrades who'd already emigrated to the United States to organize the very first standing strike in Krasnoyarsk Krai. At that point, we had some kind of democracy. At that point, the head of the Travis police, Oveshinsk, approached me with a request for a compromise. So they put traffic controls to reduce congestion, asked us to keep the protest reasonable, which we were happy to do. We just wanted to show our opposition to what was happening. We present to you, in all its glory, yet another secret dacha of the Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev. In the center, here's the pond and the main house. Its approximate area is 1,500 square meters.
Да, я с Навальным познакомилась именно на этом видео.
I became familiar with Navalny from this very video, and then started watching his other investigations, like about Yuri Chaika. I began to think of him as the person who's the only one who speaks the truth, the only person you can hear it from. I was quite shocked when I went for the first time. Of course, my parents immediately tried to stop me because I was a minor. How old were you when the film came out? I was 17, but to be honest, when I went to the demonstration, I didn't know so many people would be there. They were pretty peaceful demonstrations. They only started to disperse at the end when an undercover investigator showed up. I remember when Navalny got locked up, there was a huge demonstration too, and they didn't push back much. But I think they just didn't have the time to coordinate properly. In the second protest after, they detained a lot of people.
За это время я поняла то, что в Самаре есть люди, которые...
During this time, I understood that in Samara, there are people willing to defend their position and point of view. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but these people exist, and I'm very glad that we are able to stand shoulder to shoulder at that time. When the so-called special military operation started, I honestly expected that there would be a lot more people coming out, but it turned out to be quite the opposite.
Активность людей была гораздо ниже, потому что...
People's activity was a lot lower because, after all, everyone was morally suppressed in many ways, and were, I think, disappointed in peaceful protests and demonstrations. They understood that coming out today in 2022 would lead to very little, outside of risking a fine or being arrested, the frequency of which only increases every year.
The most important thing still is, of course, what is happening now in the world, and not in my personal life. But of course, on the other hand, I am incredibly scared for my life and my family, and am very distressed because I have tried so hard my entire life, graduated from MGU with the highest honors, did my best to progress professionally, spent my whole life to make the conditions my daughter grows up in as comfortable as possible. And now that I have just tasted this moment I have been working towards my entire life, it has pretty much gone completely down the toilet with this whole business. I felt like I was in a vacuum. I didn't know where to go and what to do. I was completely lost.
Ну, все равно продолжались выходы.
The protests did continue, but they quieted down as repression began. As you know, you get used to this quickly, understand that it's apparently not possible to change what is happening. It's just infuriating, powerless. At the same time, this hunger for change is still there inside. What do you think is necessary for that? It seems like the security forces need to see the light, probably.
Мне не страшно говорить свои мысли, потому что...
I'm not afraid to speak my thoughts because I'm confident in them. But I'm scared because you don't know what they'll think of it. Sometimes people get locked up for 6 or 7 years just for suggesting postponing a children's holiday.
Скажите, пожалуйста, а какой...
Someone please tell me, how can we even speak about a children's art competition when children are dying in Ukraine every day?
Our sailors are marching well together. Glory to our sailors!
On 9th of May, I took part in a war memorial celebration, carrying a banner bearing the name of my grandfather and a slogan saying, "We defeated that fascism, and we will defeat this one too," meaning that what's happening in Ukraine today, it can't be called a normal situation. My granddad, Pyotr Fyodorovich Saltyevsky, was called up to the front in June 1941 and spent the entire war as a mechanic for armored vehicles. For his service, he was awarded 3 medals: for his military achievements, for the defense and protection of Moscow, and for victory over Germany. After the end of the war in September 1945, and almost until the end of his life, he spent his time doing what he loved, repairing musical instruments.
Передо мной шел некий поклонник Z-движения с флагом.
In front of me, there was a follower of the Z movement, holding a flag saying something along the lines of, "Victory will be ours, the enemy will be vanquished." I took out my banner right behind him, and literally within a minute or two, 3 people grabbed me by the arms and dragged me to the fence, where they handed me over to the police.
Точно помню, что когда-то я хотел стать...
I remember exactly when I wanted to become a policeman, a long time ago, a very long time ago, but naturally that desire went away as I got older.
How do you feel about the police now?
Ну,
Well, there are people who can smile in your face while drawing up the case against you using Article 20.33. They can maybe support you on a personal level, but they have an order from above to fine you. How exactly are you supposed to feel about people like that?
Нет войне! Нет войне!
Насколько Самара протестный город?
As for how much of a protest city Samara is, if you don't look at the official news and instead get information from unofficial sources online, then you can see news reports of picketers being detained every day. The protest movement is still actively going.
Я вышел с плакатом, который...
I went out with a poster with a phrase from the cartoon Leopold the Cat, saying, "Come on everybody, let's live in peace," as well as the 31st article of the Constitution affirming my right to demonstrate written on the side. My protest lasted about 4 minutes, and I was later found guilty of discrediting the Russian army and fined 40,000 rubles.
В этом интервью, в публичном интервью, я вынужден подбирать слова.
In this interview in a public setting, I must choose my words carefully so as not to become a defendant in another administrative or worse criminal case again. As we found out in my individual protest, any statement that doesn't mention anything to do with the military
Оно может приравняться к дискредитации армии.
Can be equated to discrediting the army and subsequently punished. For some, a war in a neighboring country becomes a personal crisis. A person cannot calmly watch people dying and doesn't want to remain silent watching cities get destroyed and hearts and minds shattered. This person risks everything, ignoring their inherent instinct of self-preservation. In Russia, there are still people who are ready to openly speak their thoughts, especially for such a large audience. I've been following Ilya Yashin as a municipal deputy for a long time now.
What do you think will happen to Ilya Yashin now?
They'll pin something on him and send him away for a long time, presumably. But I do still have hope and faith that Ilya will come back and continue his activity, and that we will still watch and support him together. Hi, everybody.
Суть самого антивоенного пикета, она сводится к действию постоянно.
The core of anti-war protesting boils down to constant action, not necessarily every day, but going out to demonstrate with some frequency for at least an hour and focusing most of all on converting those who aren't currently supporting the cause to join. Fighting propaganda is possible only offline, only through in-person interaction with people, but there is little opportunity to have that personal discussion, because if someone supports the military, they'll simply ignore all your arguments. When you appear to someone as part of a genuine movement, as something that is tangible in the real world, then your arguments gain great strength. This requires going out onto the street though, not arguing on the internet and in the comments, working not through symbols, but through real people on the street.
Вопрос личной свободы.
I hear people say that personal freedom is a question of separating yourself from society. I often hear that if you only consider what goes on in your own life, you'll be happy. No. As you can see, of course not. Some of us, including myself, thought that until February 24th. Are we happy now? No.
Да, у меня очень большой страх.
I'm really scared of letting my daughter down because, you know, what can she do without me? This is my home, my family is here. It is my country, not just their country. It is my country as well. And no one can tell me how to leave or decide anything for me. But still, they have found an effective button to press, so I will unfortunately most likely leave Russia. If I didn't have a family and I was alone, I would definitely have stayed.
People like Anatoly Chubais or Marina Ovsyannikova, who lied to us for decades and stole from all of us, get to move to the West, where they're provided with funds, open doors, and welcomed by editorial officers of foreign media. There's nothing like this for ordinary activists from Russia. who've been speaking out for a decade against this regime.
Я, наверное, слукавлю, если не скажу, что
I'd probably be lying if I said that the thought of leaving doesn't cross my mind daily.
об отъезде.
У меня все здесь. И все друзья.
I have everything here. All my friends, my native language. I don't really have any desire to live even in the closest neighboring countries, like Georgia or Armenia. It's just not for me. I want it to be like Europe here, as cultured and civilized, so that civil society can be listened to and not driven away.
Я еще не накопила достаточно финансов, чтобы уехать. Плюс
I haven't saved up money to leave yet.
сейчас помогаю своим родителям.
Plus, I am currently helping my parents to take care of my 98-year-old grandmother. If there was the opportunity to live, I would take it, because I understand that everything is only going to get worse.
Я вообще искренне до последнего буду стараться не уезжать.
Honestly, I will try not to leave Russia until the very end. It would have to be the very, very last straw. A crossing of the line in the sand, where there wouldn't be any choice left. I don't want to leave, as in my mind, there is still this idea that this will all be somehow over soon.